What is up, everybody? Today I am starting a brand new series where I show you how to birdie every single hole in the game. There are 7 3-hole courses. We're going to start on Resort A, finish on Special, and by the end of this series you'll know how to birdie every hole in the game.
Nice shot.
Now, hole number 1, there's really not much to say other than make sure you land on the fairway. Sometimes you can get pretty strong directional wind, like 20-30 mile an hour, hard to the left or the right. Just make sure you adjust enough for that to land yourself on the fairway. Stroke number 2 is where things get tricky. I always look to roll towards the hole. I never use backspin on these holes. And by these holes, I mean hole number 1 and hole number 10. They're very similar. And when looking for a birdie, your goal here should just be to get as close to the hole as possible. These greens are relatively flat, so even if you're 10-20 feet away, you can still make a birdie putt. In this instance, with 11 mile an hour headwind, I'm going to go just over 3 dots, and I'm going to look to roll up to the hole. And as you saw there, I did not get a birdie. I got the eagle. I'm going to do this shot one more time and just show you how to get the birdie. So eagles are not always going to happen. Let's say you miscalculate the wind or miscalculate the power. So I undershot a little bit there. But again, as long as you're on the green within 20 feet of the hole, it's generally an easy birdie putt. Now this green is going downhill ever so slightly. You only need to adjust a little bit for putting on these greens. And that's how you secure birdie on hole number 1. Now we got hole number 2. It can be a little bit of a tricky hole. The first thing you have to consider is the green. If you noticed, it is concave, so when your ball lands on the green, it will roll towards the dark green area of the topography map. And if you've played this hole before, you'll realize that it does roll quite a bit. So in the case here, where the hole placement is on the left and the wind is pushing us to the right, I'm going to have to adjust a little more than I think to account for the roll of the green. Now in terms of power, you really can use any iron here as long as you know what to do. For me, I like to use a 7-iron, and 3.5 is my base power. And I'll adjust depending on the headwind or tailwind and the placement of the hole. So now that I've adjusted for the wind and the green, I'm going to go 3.5 and look to roll up to the hole to get a nice birdie putt.
Nice shot.
So if you noticed, I undershot that a little bit. Ended up being decent power anyway, and as you saw, our ball actually rolled quite far to the right of the hole because of the concave. So you got to see firsthand what I'm talking about. Now if you get a nice chip off the tee, putting shouldn't be too big of a deal. Just remember the concave of the green.
Nice birdie.
Sink that putt nicely. That's a birdie on hole number 2. Now for hole 3, this is the first par 5 of the course. First thing you have to keep in mind, avoid the bunker at all costs. If you land in the bunker, you effectively add 1 stroke to your total, so you have to take a small chip to get out of the bunker. And the second thing to think about is try to set yourself up nicely to get a good angle to shoot through these trees. With 11 mile an hour headwind, I'm fine using the driver, but if you did have a tailwind and you full power on the driver, you could land in the bunker.
Nice shot.
You can use this tree right here to slow you down if you would like, to get a better angle at going through these trees. But just do your best to get on the fairway off stroke 1. For stroke 2, you're going to want to shoot through these trees and try to land at the end of the fairway right here. If you have a tailwind, you might want to club down to a spoon so you don't go too far. But in this case, we'll be fine using the driver because of our headwind.
Nice shot.
So if I had gone a little farther there and landed in the rough or the bunker, it just would have made the chip onto the green a little more difficult. There's no reason to land there because chipping from the fairway is much easier. And chipping here is similar to every other hole. Just remember the green. If you have aggressive hills on the green, it's going to determine where your ball rolls. So not only do you have to think about the wind, but you also have to think about the topography when you're chipping on the green. Now for this chip, I know from experience that the wedge doesn't roll very far compared to the other irons, and we have a little bit of a headwind, so I'm actually going to go full power with the wedge.
Nice shot.
That ends up being a nice chip. We utilize the hill on the green quite nicely. It rolls us in the direction of the hole, and we now have a very safe putt for birdie.
Nice birdie.
And there you have it. Resort A, holes 1 to 3 have been birdied. Hopefully you can utilize this in your next online match. Stay tuned for the next video in this series, which will be Resort B, hole 4 to 6.